Halfway through the year, and my reading goals have changed slightly. Let's go over what they are now. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for watching, thank you for being here. If this is your first time here, like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel. Rather than doing a May TBR that I'm not going to stick to or don't really feel like compelled to stick to that heavily, I figured I would just update you on what my new reading goals are, as I've shifted them slightly. You know, I still am holding on to the basic thing that I stayed at the beginning of the year. I just wanted to read a book a week, 52 books by the end of the year. Having finished a book yesterday, I can say what it is because I don't plan on reviewing it. I finished The Way of a Dam by Philip Chase. Really enjoyed a lot of it. And again, I'm not doing a review on that until the whole trilogy is done. It's all coming out this year, so I don't really feel the need to review each individual one. I would rather just talk about it all as a whole, because given where things end off, it is clear that this is there's something planned here, and it feels like you only have part of the story, so it seems unfair to review a book where you know that it's not all completed yet. That was my 16th book of the year, so I'm pretty much on track so far to hit that. Maybe I need to kick it into high gear a little bit, get myself ahead some, but I plan to do that this month. And The Way of a Dam is a great segue into what my reading goals are, or what they're shifting to be. And that is, for the rest of the year, now I'm not saying I'm exclusively going to do this, but I would like to incorporate more of it, and that is, I want to read more self-published books. And I have a few reasons for that. Let's get into it. I think a few years ago, reading self-published books, it would have been a market for fan fiction and just people the stigma was that if you weren't good enough to be traditionally published, that you would become self-published. That's kind of was the stigma. And then I think right around 2021, I want to say, that's where I really started to notice more self-published authors. And it seems to be, especially now, but even at that time, being self-published seemed to be more of a choice than it probably used to be. And I think there probably was a time when self-published books were relegated for people that I don't want to say good enough, because everything is subjective, and a book that I might think is terrible, someone else might love. But I think there's some objective writing quality that you can look at, and that you can say this isn't very good, or that's not great. If you're structuring sentences incorrectly, I think a lot of people are going to be it's not a very good book, unless your name happens to be Cormac McCarthy. But I think that stigma is kind of going away. And I think we are now getting to the point where self-published books are, they have the exact same quality, maybe not physically, but in the writing aspects, they are the same quality as traditionally published books. So these books are growing the same kind of fan base that a traditionally published book would. And so I think that the days of that stigma being true are gone. And the other big thing about self-publishing books, I feel of the self-pub stuff that I've read, you have so much more freedom, is the way that I will phrase it. You can take risks, you can do things narratively that a lot of other places probably wouldn't. Cradle, for example, the Cradle series. I don't think those books progression fantasy, I don't think is a big thing if you were to try to traditionally publish those. But because you're self-publishing those, you can take that risk. You can be this is something that's interesting to me, I can do it, and then we will see if there's people out there who are looking for this. Or 11th Cycle would be a big one. I don't know if there's a room in traditionally published stuff for Dark Souls inspired, brutal, grim, dark stuff. I don't know if that exists in traditional publishing. But these are all books that you can read currently because they're self-published. They took a chance. They did something interesting narratively. They have interesting influences. and they put their like hard work into something and created something like wholly unique and original that would not exist if we only had the traditionally published like world. These books would not exist, and Cradle is a best-selling book. Like 11th Cycle has done fairly well. These things wouldn't exist, and I think what this really comes down to is like marketing. Like the majority of books are sold by marketing. If you do not have an easily marketable book, there's a good chance your book will never be published by traditionally published houses, the big publishing houses. Because so much of it rides on the marketing. And so if you have an idea that maybe can't be summed up very well, or that can't be like easily put on the back of a book, or like can't be blurbed very well because it's kind of intricate and it kind of requires like a little bit of like sitting down and talking about it, the more you have to explain what your book is about, like the less chance you have of it being published traditionally. And like this, I think this is kind of where like self-publishing has picked up the slack, where all these books that are not like easily marketed, right? That they're being told, oh, like your book is good, but like we don't really know how we would sell this. And so self-publishing has really become the place where you sell this book, and you just let it open and let it loose to the masses and see what gets picked up and see like what sticks. And like I really truly believe that this is probably like the future of publishing. If you could garner some kind of like community online, or be a part of a community online already, we're getting to the point where the traditionally published world like is kind of unnecessary. And like obviously we're a long ways away from like creators owning all the rights to all their stuff, and traditionally published stuff is always going to exist, but I'm saying like it's becoming bigger and bigger every year with more and more quality stuff getting released. And I think a lot of creators are in the point where like they're kind of like tired of waiting to see if the next book they write is going to be good enough by traditionally published standards to be published, that why not just take the risk and put it out there, right? And so like that's why that's kind of where I'm at, right? If I were to ever write something, which I have aspirations to do, I don't think I would even try to be traditionally published. I think I would always go the self-published route. And I think like a big part of that, is you are in control of every aspect of that book, and that is both a blessing and a curse. You retain all the rights, you did all the work, you get all the reward, and like it allows for so much freedom. And I think that is what attracts me to self-published books the most, which is, there's a whole other component that attracts me, but like for starters, for just looking at the work, what attracts me to self-published books the most is this ability to have like crazy ideas, like wild stuff, interesting concepts, like good characters, things that just like wouldn't work in the traditionally published space, but there's still an audience for it. Like just because a Penguin Random House doesn't know how to sell your book doesn't mean there's not an audience for your book. And I think more and more people are starting to realize that. And I think, rather than putting that book in a drawer and writing the next one hoping that it becomes traditionally published, I think more and more people are just putting those books out there, and they're garnishing like some kind of attention. People are reading them, people are liking them, and I think that is what I like the most about all this. Like it's why I love like the independent movies of the late 90s and the early 2000s, where it's like it is people like doing what they love, putting their dream out there, and just like seeing what happens, taking that risk, taking that chance. And I think it's very admirable. It's something that I respect, and I think it produces a lot of great works because you don't have that traditionally published restraint of this might not work, like we don't know how to sell this, we don't like, there's not a market for this, or again, like, and I also think a lot of this comes down to like these big companies, they don't know like what their market is. And you see it all the time in like movies and other mediums besides books, where like something becomes really popular, so then they chase that thing that is popular rather than like trying to just create the next big thing to be popular. So we're constantly just chasing what has already worked rather than like trying to find the new things that will work. And so I think that is the big rut that all media produced by big companies is in currently, where we were trying to find ways to make a lot of money quickly without really like developing something from the ground up, without really like investing in people and creators with ideas. And I think that is what self-publishing really is all about. It's about people like believing in their work. It is about people like having ideas that maybe they were told would never work and putting it out there for the world to decide if this is going to work or not, rather than like some company telling you it won't work. The people will tell you if it's going to work or not. And so that's what makes me the most excited about self-publishing. I'm looking to get into the self-published horror and fantasy and science fiction, really kind of anything. Like, and I really would like to read more of it. And a lot of that comes down to the second component, which is like the authors. Being a part of a community, feeling like you're supporting that community, feeling like you're supporting these people that like are readily available for you. If you want to say something nice about somebody's book and like tweet at them, they'll probably respond. If you want to ask them a question about their book, I'm sure they will respond. Like, there's something about that also drives me towards that space where these people are like, they're not at your disposal because they are people with lives and they have things going on, but they can be reached. And if you want to express gratitude for what their book means to you, like, they will respond, and they love that, and they probably enjoy hearing that, and they will never get sick of it. Whereas, like, you know, you tweet at M.K. Jemisin, or you tweet at Stephen King, he's probably just not ever going to read it because he's too busy, you know, tweeting about Ron DeSantis. So, like, I don't know, there's something to be said about the community of self-published works as well that just kind of, like, makes me want to support that too. So that is my updating reading goals. I do not have any kind of like list or things thought out of the books I would like to tackle. I know that I will start, and then I would love for this to be a place to showcase self-published work, self-published books. Maybe if we grow enough, like start talking to self-published authors and talking about their story. I don't know. All that stuff is future plans, things that I would like to do. We're not quite there yet, but for now, you can find me reading more self-published books and telling you what I think about them. That is all I have for you today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, keep reading good books.